This conference will now be recorded.
For Monday, September 21st at 7 p.m. Roll call.
Mayor Calvin.
Here.
Councilmember Eggerly.
Here.
Maskey.
Here.
Wantis.
Here.
Bess. Here. Alvarado.
Here.
Osmus.
Here.
Here.
Nelson. Here. 9 present, 0 absent.
I will have the Pledge of Allegiance, and that will be performed by our City Council member, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Get that right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for doing that. Next, are there any proposed additions or deletions to the agenda? I would, prior to the council announcements, I would like to make an announcement prior to the council announcements. So item number 18 will be just a comment from the mayor. Will be on item number 18. With that one change, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make that.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Osmus, seconded by Fagerly. Discussion. All in favor? Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly. Maskey.
Aye.
Wantis.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Next, we have the consent items. City Clerk Thompson.
On tonight's consent agenda, we have for council's approval the city council minutes of September 8th, the Willmar Municipal Utilities Board minutes of September 14th, the Rice Hospital Board minutes of September 2nd, accounts payable report for September 3rd through September 16th, council's acceptance to the Human Rights Commission minutes of August 18th, the Willmar Area Lakes Convention and Visitors Bureau Board minutes of August 18th, and for council's information, the Invest in Willmar Board minutes of August 12th.
Move to approve.
Second, Schwantes.
Motion by Plowman, seconded by Schwantes to approve the consent items. Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Maskey.
Aye.
Wantis.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Prado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Next, we have a public hearing. Actually, we have 3 public hearings. The public call-in number is area code 320-335-7135. And the area code must be dialed prior to calling. I will open the first public hearing, and it's on special assessments hearing for unpaid weed grass mowing. City Clerk Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you tonight are 5 properties that are being recommended to have a resolution certifying the amount of unpaid weed grass mowing removal charges to the county auditor for collection in 2021. And we're here to hear any objections from these property owners and then take appropriate action.
So staff, do we have any callers? Oh, it just popped up in the chat. We have no callers at this time. With that, I will close that public hearing and bring it to the council for your wishes. What are your wishes?
Motion to adopt a resolution certifying the amount of unpaid weed and grass mowing removal charges to the county auditor for collection in 2021 as referenced in the report.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Schwantes, seconded by Alvarado to approve the special assessment hearing for unpaid weed and grass mowing. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Schwantes,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next, I'll open the public hearing for special assessment hearing for unpaid nuisances. City Clerk Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this year we have one parcel that has, that we're recommending the council adopt a resolution certifying the amount of unpaid nuisances for the collection in the 2021 taxes. And we are here to hear testimony if this property owner is present this evening. Otherwise, the staff's recommendation is to adopt the resolution.
Okay.
So moved.
I missed who said that. I'm sorry.
Maskey.
Second, Davis.
I'll close the public hearing. There's been a motion made and seconded. Motion by Meskey, seconded by Davis to approve the special assessment hearing for unpaid nuisances and have it sent to the county for collection. Discussion. Councilmember Osmus.
Is there any particular reason that we're not stating who the property belongs to or the address of it, so they know which one if they were to call in on it?
I believe in the past we have not mentioned the names or the addresses simply out of respect for those individuals. They've been served by our staff with the appropriate notices. If that isn't correct, City Administrator Gramitz, let me know, but I believe that's correct, right?
I believe so. It is
I
in
know in
the,
the past. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it is, everything is listed in the agenda, if the public were so inclined to see it though.
Correct, yes, we're not, yeah, it's public information. I know in the past there were questions as to whether or not people had received the notices or not. And we generally hear about that afterwards. So there's been a motion made and seconded. Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Beggarly,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Next, I'll open the third and final public hearing. The public call-in number again is 320-335-7135. And the area code must be dialed. You need to dial all of the numbers, all 10 numbers if you're calling in. This is for a special assessment hearing for unpaid snow and ice removal charges. City Clerk Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just to clarify, notices have been mailed out to all the property owners for all 3 of the hearings as stated by guidelines. So they did receive notice of tonight's hearing. Before you for this hearing are 3 properties that have not paid their removal of snow or ice. So we are recommending the council adopt a resolution certifying the amounts for their unpaid snow or ice removal charges to the county auditor for collection in 2021.
Osmus, so moved.
Second, Alvarado.
I'm waiting on the text from the staff, so. Okay, it just popped up. There are no comments or callers in on this, so I will close the public hearing. Motion has been made by Osmus, seconded by Alvarado, to approve the special assessment hearing for unpaid snow or ice removal charges and have it sent to the county for collections. Discussion. Councilmember Maskey.
Just curious, when you have something like snow removal and we are almost to the point where we're going to be doing that again, are there any late fees or anything else that are assessed to these folks, or does it just take this long to collect the dollars almost a year after these fees have been incurred?
Ms. Thompson?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we certify once a year, and that is, things have to be certified to the county auditor by November 15th of each year. So anything that occurs from the year prior through now only can be certified at this time of year. So that is why there's such a long lag in between.
Thank you.
Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Bauman,
Aye.
Then,
Aye.
Baggerly,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Swantis,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Next item on the agenda is the presentation of the mayor's proposed 2021 budget. And I will start by some opening remarks. As mayor, I am required by the city charter to prepare or cause to be prepared the 2021 budget for the city of Willmar. I've given direction and worked with staff to produce the proposed 2021 budget you are receiving today. The $18.68 million budget maintains the current service levels the citizens of Willmar have come to expect. The 2 largest revenue sources are approximately $6 million in local property taxes and $5 million in local government aid. I am submitting to you a balanced budget that uses a 3% increase in the overall tax mill levy rate to maintain current service levels for all city departments. We will continue to use the existing city council approved financial policies to handle all funds used in the provision of municipal services to our residents, businesses, industries, and those that visit our community. The major changes that are found within the budget include the addition of 2 positions. One is an assistant city administrator position, and the second is a Main Street and community outreach coordinator. I'm anticipating those 2, Main Street and community outreach, to be 1 FTE. These items have been in front of the Labor Committee, and they are coming with recommendations on these positions. Employee wage adjustments and healthcare costs have been estimated, as both should be finalized before the adoption of the budget and tax levy in December of 2020. Should these expenditures be less than anticipated, the funds could be used to add unfunded department requests or held into reserves for use by the council in the future. Revenue options that were presented to me by staff that I did not add into the budget that are still available for the city council to consider is the sale of non-public use agricultural land. These would be one-time funds. the creation of a gas utility franchise fees, which could then be collected on an annual basis. And the mayor's budget does not propose changing the collection or use of the $4 utility fee, which has been a discussion point over the last 2 years. The city's debt position is anticipated to increase due to the local option sales tax projects under consideration and construction in 2020 and also 2021. The amount of this debt will be decided by the city council based upon actual and projected future sales tax receipts through the finance committee. While I am aware that the state of Minnesota can unallocate local government aid, which is approximately 29% of our anticipated revenue, before the end of 2020 or during the 2021 budget year, we will simply have to wait and see when and how much the cut will be made to address our budgets accordingly. Should they be needed, this will be funneled through the finance committee. We may, as a council, want to consider delaying the purchase of any capital items until it has been determined by the legislature if there are going to be reductions to local government aid. Staff and I look forward to answering any questions you may have on the proposed 2021 City of Willmar budget as it has been prepared for your review. The council has had this or has had it available to them for over 2 weeks. And if there are questions, for approximately 2 weeks. And if there are questions, myself, the city administrator, or the finance director will be prepared to answer those questions. At this time, I will turn the presentation over to our city administrator, Mr. Gramitz.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. In addition to the operational budget that you would have received, well over 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, there was a 2021 budget narrative that was supplied to help walk you through the various changes and increases and decreases in the proposed 2021 budget. As the mayor had stated, we're looking at a 3% increase on the mill levy rate. It would go up 1.195 mills and would generate $308,000, roughly $500, of which we have that divided into 2 areas. One is value increasing in the community, and the other one is brand new construction that adds value to the community. All right. If you had that document with you, I'll just briefly go through. We've got some increases, we got some decreases. You'll note that we're anticipating building permits to be down. Interest earnings will, I believe, definitely be down based on what the interest rates are being put out by the Fed, which they're saying, up to the next 2 years is going to be pretty low. So earnings are going to be low also. We do have some revenue from rent that is going down from Minnesota Development lease at the existing City Hall, and refunds, reimbursements are reduced due to the Rice Hospital agreement that we have. It's just a pass-through for us now. All right, as noted by the mayor, revenue streams we did not incorporate, which are still available to the city council should they wish to do so, is the franchise fee and the putting a property tax increase larger than what proposed, and sale of excess land. Sometimes the city comes to owning property that we may have picked up for a project, we may have traded for it, we may have, much like the airport, it's part of a reuse type of situation, and I would only recommend using those funds for one-time expenses if one were to determine that that was something they wanted to do. The reason we put it forward was more in the lines of consideration for auditorium projects that you may want. There is some money set aside currently for the auditorium, but if the city council was saying, you know, it's not showing up fast enough, that we're building enough funds to deal with the things we want to do with the auditorium, it's merely a trade-off. You want to maintain what you have. You know, there's some land, one-time money that you could use to do that. All right. So going into more or less the changes, you know, there's not a lot of ups and downs. You know, the biggest changes that we're seeing generally is that payroll is anticipated to go up. We've got negotiations with the 3 labor organizations this fall. If we can get that done before the end of the year, that would be great, but sometimes those things slide into 2021 into the spring, and then we have to backtrack, but it'd be nice if we could get those done early. Another item that is on the horizon, and that's simply the employee health insurance premium, and we don't know exactly what it'll be. We do know it's coming fairly soon. We've had indicators from third-party administrators whom we use, and some who volunteered information on our PEEP program, that it could be anywhere in the 10 to 13% increase. So, you know, really the focus is on the really big things. We're not really looking at the little things that might change from year to year. In the general government, we did include the assistant city administrator. In the narrative, it's listed at 198,000. That was a miscalculation on our part, and that would actually be closer to 145, somewhere in there. There was an assumption made on initial wages, and that was too high. So at this point in time, that's a reduction that you can consider using funds for other things that were not included in the budget. The planning and development services, you'll note that we've got the Main Street and Community Outreach Coordinator. The Main Street position has historically been allocated to the planner, with parts of it going to other departments and staff, and it all accumulates to amount to 1 full-time equivalent. So let's say we get 50% from the planner, 10% from the public work crew that helps set things up and tear things down. The allocation was, in essence, 1 full-time. We have an agreement with the parent organization of Main Street, where we have said that we would eventually fund that with a full-time equivalent person. I mean, not equivalent, a full-time person. So this is initially the start of fulfilling that, and the planner would be reallocated back to planning duties. As anticipated, those will be increasing in the near future here. So we can shift some of the burden of Main Street to this part-time position. It could be 50% position, it could be 60. We haven't really gotten that far yet. The Community Outreach Coordinator was something that the mayor has submitted and anticipates utilizing in the community to open the lines of communication between minorities in the community and the city and its citizens, businesses, in order to basically, you know, make things run a little bit easier, and hopefully we can squelch problems before they get serious by having somebody working with the various groups in our community. There's many of the departments are seeing actually no changes per se. Finance seeing a slight uptick in wages due to the potential change of the finance accountant type position to creating the assistant finance director. That decision is yet to be made, so that's a number that's still not in a concrete format. You'll see City Hall capital requests were not included, and I think this is just an extension of, you know, what are we going to do with City Hall, and how much money do you want to stick into the existing City Hall, and then turn around and, you know, leave at some future date in time. And so those can be reviewed as we go through the budget, but just keep in mind nothing being done at City Hall to upgrade or improve the building itself. All right, public safety, you know, I'm not going to go through, you know, what the dollars per gallon of gas we're going, you know, we anticipate for next year. It's just a ongoing, you know, average of we spend X dollars, we have so many gallons, and we're kind of subject to the whims of the economy if something changes. One thing I do want to point out for the city council, you'll note that under police, it was item number 4 in the recap. The law enforcement center has been paid off, and as per the agreement, now that the debt is off, the allocation of who pays for the operations is now in consideration for 2021. And you'll notice that it drops maybe down from 175,000 last year to help with our debt service portion, down to 160,000, which is just for the operation. That's custodial, that's replacement of materials and just operations. Interesting that that was not part of the original, as long as there was debt, the city wasn't asked to pay for that. So I find that kind of interesting. Now that the debt's off, now we're into the more mundane day-to-day expenses of the law enforcement center. Police department still purchasing, you know, 4 cars in 2021, and we did remove the radar stalker, and that's that sign that you know has the radar attached inside of it that will tell you how fast you're going and send messages out. We're acquiring the sign portion through the CARES funding, and the radar portion will actually come through the police department, so that's a relatively minor item. The fire department does have many capital improvements that were not funded. If I were to recommend a change, I would take roughly that $50,000 that was saved from the assistant city manager, and I would probably allocate that towards the deputy chief's vehicle and also trade in the existing vehicle. It has some issues, and if it was running good, I'd look at keeping it as a backup for fire department purpose. But right at this point, they've identified issues that doesn't make it a good first responder vehicle. Therefore, I would move it on and pick up the deputy chief vehicle if the city council is so inclined. All right, public works, engineering, stormwater, or transit, engineering, stormwater, not a lot changed. We did in the capital fund pick up the trucks, the skid loaders, the loaders. We did not fund the shop drain and the signal painting continuation project. Rack 8 sees a reduction slightly. Library, no material change. That again is just so everybody is on the same page. We're required by state law, in essence, the short story is to fund the library at the same approximate level that we've been funding it at. And so you, as a as a politician, you can't be upset with the library system and then defund them. And so there is a state statute, and we're meeting our obligation under that state statute. Now it can deviate a little bit from year to year. I believe it's the average of the last 3 years, but generally we've been funding it at at the same level, which is actually higher than what the state requires us to. So that's the library. Auditorium, the outside doors and the roof gutters, we would anticipate if we proceed with those projects, those would come from the current $735,000 that we have in reserves. Non-departmental, those are your civic promotion requests. We funded the ones we have in the past. You see the list that we have not funded. Again, open to the city council discretion. Park and Rec, capital funded, $160,000 playground equipment, and a Trishaw bike, which I believe is near and dear to at least one person on the screen, maybe the mayor. I'm not quite sure yet, but again, an asset for a group of members in the community that really do appreciate the efforts of the city council in that respect. Things that were not funded were basketball courts and the Swanson Field lights for red, yellow, and green fields. All right, Civic Center, utilities go up. Did not fund the Blue Line Center insulation project of roughly $350,000. And the community center has no material change. The aquatic center has no material change. Just be cognizant of the fact that the lowest level of block we had identified this last fall as needing fixing and repairing. That is being proposed to be done next year. And we anticipate that to be approximately $25,000. So it actually doesn't show up. It's just going to be part of the cost of fixing it, and it'll be within the actual budget. All right, there is no longer transfers to the airport debt service fund. That was paid off in 2020, and capital requests came in, to be quite honest, at $3 million. They were cut by $2 million, and the resulting $1 million is actually included within the 2021 budget. And as the mayor pointed out, there has been no change to the $4 utility fee. That's to be, I think, further discussed in finance and at the city council, and ultimately before December 31st, so it can be addressed one way or the other. If you're going to change things, you need some time to implement. So with that, I do believe, let me see, Mr. Okins is here if you really get into the nitty gritty of what's in each line item. But generally speaking, the operational costs that you received have not changed. There's been a few things that have been clarified since they were handed out a few weeks back, and hopefully the city council members have obtained their binders. I got an email saying roughly 6 of you had obtained your full binder booklet, which includes all the capital improvement projects, includes all the vehicle replacement, and the operational for 2021. So I would anticipate there's going to be further discussion on this between now and December 31st. But what is being proposed is a 1.195 increase in the mill levy to capture the funds necessary to fund the things found within the budget, we hope. As I said, a few of the things are still unverified. We don't have exact numbers like health insurance and compensation for employee wages. but we'll know that I'll get it to the city council as soon as we know it. So, you know, you'll be aware of it hopefully before the end of the year. But if not, we'll just have to estimate and go into 2021 and finalize these things and make adjustments within the fiscal year 2021. So with that, I'd be open to any questions. I know Mr. Okins will be more than willing to help try and answer any questions you might have.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. I was simply going to make a motion to receive the budget and adopt the resolution to set the preliminary property tax levy.
Is there a second to that motion?
We'll second that.
Motion by Nelson, seconded by Fagerly to approve the levy as submitted by the mayor, staff, and the finance director. Again, the levy can go down from what would be adopted this evening, but it cannot go up. And the budget can always work within the parameters of the finance committee to be adjusted as needed to operate the city. Discussion. Councilmember Metzke, followed by Nelson.
First, thank you for taking the time putting the budget together. I think it was a good process, and I did sit down with finance director Okins, and I went over and he answered most of my questions. Just as what we were just presented today, City Administrator Gramitz, under the fire department, the turnout gear, there's a cut of 100,000 there. It was not funded, sorry. It says required for grant. Could you explain the situation on that particular item? Are we missing a grant because of that, or what's happening with that one?
The fire chief is hoping to acquire a grant to fund that at this point in time.
Thank you. And then, if I may, the auditorium, we have taken money out of the last couple of budgets specifically for that. I'm curious why some of those items have not been dealt with. The roof and the gutters have been an ongoing problem. Tuck pointing, I think, has been an issue since I've been on the council for 5 years. I'm curious if we have the dollars, what are we waiting for to start those projects on the auditorium?
I would anticipate that if the city council wants to make that a priority, you've got enough money to handle some of those projects. I don't, know the total history on that particular facility and the revenue stream. I know there was some money set aside and hopefully obtain some grants. If I'm not mistaken, the last I heard, we were going to try and get somebody to do a historic review so that then you would be able to qualify for grants in the future. And at this point in time, I think it's just you get caught up with COVID-19 and you get caught up with just keeping the boat afloat, that some of these extra things might end up getting glossed over. If it's a priority of the city council, we will make sure that gets kicked in gear so that we can try and apply for some state historic funds to help.
I appreciate that, because I think that was a priority and we did move those things, but maybe this is something that's been lost. But I don't know necessarily if the grants are precluding other things from happening, because of course some of those things, the longer you wait on those, the more expensive they will get when we finally get them done. So I'm hoping that moves. I don't know what it takes to make it happen from the council's end, if we just need motions at some point, but that item in the budget just seems strange because it's something we should be dealing with. So I'm glad to hear that we will be looking at it.
Yeah, I would recommend that I would assume Public Works is the committee that would initiate that, and the city engineer would start the process. And I mean that could be started tomorrow, to be quite honest. In essence, what we'd wait for the committee, obviously, but what you want to do is solicit the people that do the work to detail the history such that when you make application for grants, it fits into all the categories, and you then obtain a grant. And so, I mean, we could fix these things on our own dollar if we want to, or we can apply for grants as they come up. And last time we talked about this, I know we talked about, hiring somebody to get them to write up the historical perspective of this building in order to qualify for those grants. And like I say, COVID-19 hit, and we find ourselves maybe not pursuing extra things, but just trying to keep everything running. So I would ask that Sean Christensen, city engineer, put that on his list of many things that I've asked, and he's getting to them. But it's like everything; everybody's got only so many hours in a day. So we'll put that on the list.
I'll just make a comment in regards to that too. Before that was being handled through community development, was the committee that was looking at that. And I know, like you stated, Councilmember Meskey, this has been asked to be done for 5 years. And I know that it is on the priority list from 2017 as well, that the council receives at the beginning of every meeting. So if it takes going to Councilmember Plowman's committee to get it off the dime, I think that's a great idea. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Kelvin. I just want to say thank you to you for presenting this to the full council tonight, and also for the work that's been done on the budget. It's a struggle, I think, as we look at it, to figure out what is in the best interest of Willmar. And I think the presentation that was made, I think that the council did take the budget process seriously last year, and I think we will do our due diligence again. But I do feel that we have October and November, and hopefully additional information to be reviewing regarding the detail that is in the budget. And so I think that this year's challenge with what we might see coming down the road with LGA or some of the other things reminds us to be careful and be cautious. Those words came from the League of Minnesota Cities, and I think we will do that. But I do appreciate the work that's gone into it, and we will do our best to take a look at it and see how we can get the council together to be reviewing the different parts of the budget in the next couple months. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Additional comments? Okay, we do have a motion on the table to set the preliminary budget along with the levy. Again, 1.195% mill increase. And the council will then, through the finance committee, be working on finalizing everything as our city administrator has talked about, with some adjustments that he's already aware of since this was submitted to you. I just want to point out also that this is the earliest the council has ever received the budget in its totality. I think we're improving it every year. I'm listening to you as the council when you're asking for things. I try to do what you ask me to do. And so we had it out ahead of time, and I want to thank staff for the work that they put into it, along with other people who have met with staff. So with that, roll call.
Councilmember Osmus.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Bakerly.
Aye.
Meskey.
Aye.
Wantis.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Now the hard work starts, and the sleeves have to get rolled up and the final details get worked out. So thank you for all the work that I know you will all be putting in on this. Next, we have the Public Works Safety Report for September 9th. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the sake of time, I have a rather extensive list of items that we covered, so I'm going to jump out of order just a little bit at the very beginning so that we can kind of keep it organized. Public Works and Safety met on Wednesday, September 9th at 5:05. Members present were myself, Councilmember Osmus, Councilmember Alvarado, and Councilmember Nelson. Others present, our City Administrator Brian Gramitz, our Public Works Director Sean Christensen, our Police Chief Jim Felt, our Fire Chief Frank Hansen, our Public Works Superintendent Mr. Gary Manzer, and our Building Maintenance Coordinator Chris Simon, as well as our Engineering Administrative Assistant Ms. Del Bosque, a member of the community Mr. Johnson, and the West Central Tribune was there as well. As mentioned, we called the meeting to order at 5:05. First thing up was public safety updates. That was presented to us by Chief Felt and Chief Hansen. They should be included in the packet. And if you have any questions, please indicate so at this time. Okay, I don't see anyone, so we'll move on from there. We had a couple informational items, and they're a little bit out of order, as I mentioned, from our minutes, but I'm going to go over those first before we take our action items. We did receive, for information, the city's current tree trimming policy. And we took a look at that policy, the planting and maintenance policy, and basically it was presented to us, the policy and the procedure for tree trimming, exactly how certain trees are selected for trimming, and the entire process that the city currently uses to go about that. With discussion of that, we took some comments and some concerns surrounding that policy from a local citizen who had some concerns. We discussed boulevard trees, possible notification to residents, how that notification could be implemented, and the committee decided that it would be best to take all the information that we currently have and gather some new information from surrounding communities regarding their tree trimming policies, come back to the table and compare our current tree trimming policy, find areas that they differ, areas that there may be similarities, and staff is going to present to us the findings after that research is done. Any comments or questions regarding the tree trimming policy? Okay, moving on. Our next topic for discussion was the gun range. It has been called to our attention that in past years, and as we're all well aware, that the current use of the gun range requires professional lead cleaning to reduce the lead dust to safe levels set by HUD standards as well as EPA standards. The range area, the observation room, the classrooms, hallways, all other areas, they'll have to be cleaned and professionally cleaned and tested. Staff is currently trained to clean the range and the observation room with special equipment. And the reason for this discussion, or that this was being brought up as a discussion, is the EPA has locally and lately they have changed standards in terms of cleaning standards and what's going to be required of us in the future. In the past, the benchmark that we were required to meet was 40 parts per million. The new benchmark coming up into the future will be 10 parts per million. This presents us with some challenges. That being, we take a look at the different cleaning processes and procedures that we've gone through in the past and what we've spent on them in the tens of thousands of dollars. And I believe it was discussed and it was noted that the best that we have ever achieved after multiple cleanings was around 14 to 17 parts per million. And that was after repetitive cleaning. So the conversation stated at the table was, given the dollar figures at stake and given the benchmarks that are currently presented, it is appearing to us that this is non-feasible, that this is something that we are not going to be able to handle as a city. But we did think that it was important to have staff gather a little bit more information and then also to be put on a future agenda for the entire council to decide. We did not feel comfortable making a unilateral decision as a committee structure without doing just a little bit more reaching out to communication with the various clubs and entities that use the range, as well as other staff, make sure that we have all the information that it can be brought back to the committee. So unless there are no further questions, Mr. Mayor, certainly go ahead.
Councilmember Plowman, I enjoy the fact that this conversation continues to come up year after year. I've had contact by a number of the avid gun enthusiasts in regards to this. And when you're doing your due diligence, could we do some investigating as to why we're using the HUD standard and why we're not using a similar standard to what other shooting ranges use, and have that prepared for your report when you present that? I think that would be helpful. I know that there was a lot of conversation back when the HUD standard was adopted, but I think the only person that's currently still on the council is Councilmember Fagerly from when those decisions were made. And so I think that potentially could be helpful. Just requesting that you look into that. And I haven't been briefed by staff on this at all, so I'm just hearing it for my first time. So I do appreciate that as far as that goes.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. And yeah, I'm going to kick that back to our city administrator. There was some conversation surrounding HUD, MMPCA, as well as EPA. And so, Mr. Administrator, please go ahead with additional information.
Yeah, I think the key to using the HUD limitations and cleanliness numbers is the fact that the facility is not just an adult facility. The HUD numbers deal with children, and they really deal with lead in paint and where kids live and crawl on the floor. And when people walk through from the gun range and they go through the gymnasium, they're tracking lead through the entire facility. And then you have small children who are there in the building. So if it was strictly an adult facility, one could probably, choose a different number and go with somebody, a different organization's cleanliness guidelines. But because this is open to families, small children, I think it behooves us to clean it to the level that small children are safe, and that's the underlying principle to the number and why it was likely chosen. I wasn't here back then, but that's the consensus of staff, that's why the number is what it is, because of the small children in the auditorium.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator Gromits. Yeah, and I do recall clearly, because this was one thing that, the mayor and I both started the same year. And so this was one of the first kind of issues to arise. And so we had to tackle this back then. And I will agree with the mayor that it's been an annual conversation. But as noted at the meeting, I've been an advocate and I've been in favor of keeping that gun range open and operational. I think it's a unique amenity to offer to our community. It is unfortunate that we find ourselves in the state where governmental regulations forces us to address it yet again, not only from a cost standpoint, but more importantly from a safety standpoint. And so further questions regarding that issue before we move on? I see Mr. Meskey's hand up. Go ahead, Mr. Meskey.
Thank you, Councilmember Plowman. Just a quick question. Not advocating this at this time, but non-compliance. What happens if your numbers are more than that, and how is that? Are there fines, or how long is it before they come and say you can't have it functioning any longer?
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe that question was also asked. We had the committee asking great questions. In terms of the actual specifics, what will happen, I know that staff has answers for each specific scenario, but I do know that anytime you're dealing with government regulations, whether it be MMPCA from the state or whether it be EPA, I know that violations are almost always consequentially followed up by with financial ramifications. But then there's also a liability aspect and possibly potentially an insurance aspect. And so that's what was communicated to us, I believe, by our Public Works Director. I'll just ask our administrator, am I missing anything there? Or is that a decent synopsis of reality?
Councilor Plowman, yeah, I believe that hits the high points. We have exposure of sending employees in there. We can train them and give them personal protective equipment. But yet, if the operation is above safety standards, there could be issues with that, much less just the public. So, granted, it's probably not gonna show up, like on day one, because if you remember reading the minutes of past meetings, we talked about sending the cleaning crew in, the contractor in 3 times before we could get to an acceptable level at the current regulations. And it boggles my mind that we'd be able to send somebody in and on the first try get 25% of that particular number. I just don't see how that can happen. Now, there are other alternatives. I know we had talked in the committee that we could eliminate lead. Now the gun owners may not like that because they're not shooting a soft lead projectile out of their barrels, but it eliminates the lead issue. So you clean it up once and just say, unfortunately, you're going to have to utilize a lead alternative. Now, non-lead costs about twice the amount of what lead ammunition costs. So it's either the city's going to have to pay to clean it up and maybe not get it to a clean state, or the gun owners or the shooters are actually going to have to pay more for their hobby. But somebody's going to have to pay, and that's really the bottom line.
Thank you, Administrator Gromans. Yeah, that is what we struggled with as a committee, is the fact that, again, this is an amenity that is important to us, and it's proven and such by the improvements that were made there in the past years as of recent, but then also the money that's been dedicated for the professional cleaning. And again, our concern as a committee was that they're kind of leaving us with not much choice, but before we go ahead and make a decision, it be something that's a well-informed decision, and it should probably be looked at by the entire council because there was significant expenditure along with that. So that was a discussion item for that night. We did not take any action there. Staff is going to be doing just a little bit more research before it becomes a future agenda item for the entire council. Any further discussion that anybody would like to have about that? Fernando, go ahead.
Thank you, Councilor Plowman. We also discussed the fact that we would be willing to give that equipment that we put into the gun range up at a very reasonable rate if somebody would wish to take it over or take it out and apply it to their own gun range. So I think the public should know that also, that there are options if the right party came along that wanted that equipment. You could talk to our city administrator and we could work with you on transferring that over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Alvarado. Any further questions before we move on to our action items tonight? Okay, we will move on. The first item that we have for action, or consideration of action rather, would be a toll licensing ordinance. And a little bit of background. Our police chief Felt was contacted by 2 main toll companies in Willmar requesting Willmar consider a toll licensing system for the city. These agents indicated a city license would help their operations by allowing them to comply with the state of Minnesota for a system where they can expedite license plate lookups for towed, abandoned, and mechanically leaned vehicles. Currently, they must wait several months for the needed info. Per the towing agencies, a city license is required to apply for that expedited system with the state. And so a motion was made and seconded directing our city attorney to research tow licensing ordinances and make a recommendation for a future Public Works, Public Safety Committee consideration. And I will enter that motion now.
Second.
Motion by Plowman, seconded by Nelson to have the city attorney look into our toll licensing process. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Wantis,
Aye.
Davis. Aye. Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize. I'm jumping around on my computer screen. It's too small when I need it at the correct time. I believe the first one we're going to be discussing, the first of the projects we'll be discussing tonight would be 1903-B, the Civic Center overlay. A little bit of overview. Project number 1903B included the overlay of Civic Center Drive northeast from Highway 71 to County Road 9 northeast. Change order number 1 was approved on December 2nd in the amount of $33,819.12 for additional bituminous, curb and sidewalk removal. All quantities have been reviewed by staff, and the recommendation was to authorize final payment to the contractor and I believe closing out the job. So a motion was made and seconded accepting project 1903B Civic Center Drive Northeast overlay and authorizing the final payment to Dunick Inc. in the amount of $28,847.51. And I will enter that motion now.
Second.
Motion made by Plowman, seconded by Osmus for final payment on the Civic Center Drive overlay in the amount of $28,847.51. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Wantis,
Aye.
Davis. Aye. Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson. Aye. 8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next project up for discussion will be a change order. That would be a resolution authorizing change order number 1 for project 2001-A, 9th Street Southeast reconstruction. Project 2001-A includes the reconstruction of 9th Street Southeast from Willmar Ave to Pleasant View Drive. Bids were open the 20th and Dunick Inc. was awarded the project. Change order number 1 resulted from the following: correction in elevation between 2 manholes in order to connect existing sanitary services in the amount of $6,285. Replaced also 56 foot of arch pipe that had cracked at the bell ends and collapsed during the installation of a manhole in the amount of $11,908. Of course, this is within contingency funds for the project. So a motion was made and seconded adopting a resolution authorizing change order number 1 in the amount of $18,193 for project number 2001-A 9th Street Southeast reconstruction. I will enter that motion now.
Second. Alvarado.
Motion by Plowman, seconded by Alvarado for change order number 1 on project number 2001-A. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes,
Aye.
Davis. Aye. Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson. Aye. Fagerly.
Aye.
Ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes as well. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next, we also have another change order. Thankfully, it's the first one, but as we know, most of these projects do have change orders associated. We do plan for them with a contingency budget. With that said, this project is change order number 1 for 2001-B, the reconstruction of 6th Street Northeast from 26th Avenue to the dead end at 23rd Avenue, from 6th Street to Country Club Drive as well. Bids were open on the April 20th. Riley Brothers Construction was awarded the project. Change order number 1 is resulting from the adjusting of elevations of storm pipe to avoid conflicts with sanitary services. That required the removal of 4 manholes, 3 catch basin sections in the amount of $5,500. Again, this is within our contingencies budget and planned for. A motion was made and seconded authorizing the change order number 1 in the amount of $5,500 for project 2001-B 6th Street, 23rd Avenue Northeast reconstruction. I will enter that as a motion now.
Osmus, I'll second.
Motion made by Plowman, seconded by Osmus. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Schwantes,
Aye.
Davis. Aye. Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. The next item that we're going to be discussing is awarding the project 1904 Federal Path to Dunnick Inc. and amending the as-bid budget. And I apologize because I had some personal notes here that I'm trying to pull up, but my computer is not cooperating with me. But there were some changes regarding this project, and we basically were just going back to clean up some stuff. While I'm getting to my notes, could I call on our city administrator to just give us just a short brief of this? And maybe he may want to kick it over to our public works director, but I got to get my computer fixed here.
Okay, in the interest of delaying things, I'll switch it over to Sean. Thank you, Sean.
Right. Mayor, members of the council. Yeah, this project for the federal path has been a long time coming. It was originally a 2017 project, if you'll recall, and that was to go out and get the federal dollars. Of course, federal timing of grants and funding for projects takes, well, about 3 years apparently. So we're finally getting to this project. It wasn't available until October of last year, until the federal fiscal year of 2020. And so the big kicker here is we have to earmark or start spending these funds this month. And by awarding this project, we have accomplished that goal from the state and the feds. The reason you've seen this project twice is that last time the low bidder, of course, has to go through all the process through the state and through the Office of Civil Rights and to award or to concur on the bid. The concurrence did not come. In fact, it was determined by the Office of Civil Rights that the low bidder previously awarded contingent upon did not meet the DBE goals, the disadvantaged business enterprise goals for this project. Therefore, their bid was not accepted or not concurred with OCR and MnDOT. And so that puts it back to us if we would like to award to the second low bidder, which is what this resolution does.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. You did a far better job than what I could have explaining that like off the back of my mind. And I do have my computer system back and ready to go. So here we go. With that said, yes, after that contingency was not able to be met, we are, I guess, in a sense, re-awarding or officially awarding, also with the contingency this time. But a motion was made and seconded awarding project number 1904, the Federal Path, to Dunnick Inc. in the amount of $541,991.50, contingent on MnDOT concurrence and authorizing signatures on the contract. I will make that motion now.
Second, Nelson.
Motion by Plowman, seconded by Nelson to award the contract to Dunick Inc. contingent on MnDOT concurrence and authorization signatures for the contract. Discussion. I have one question. Have we used this contractor in the past, or have we never used that contractor in the past?
I would defer to our Public Works Director. I believe that we have, but he can confirm or deny that.
Well, the answer is we have used. I'm not sure whether you're asking me about the low bidder or the second low bidder. Either way, we've used both of those contractors in the past.
Thank you. Motion made and second. Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Because we just took the action of re-awarding the contract, we also need to take the action of amending the as-bid budget. A motion was made and approved amending the as-bid budget for project 1904 Federal Path in the amount of $754,417, and I will enter that motion now.
Second, Alvarado.
Motion by Plowman, second by Alvarado to amend the budget as stated. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Curley,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes,
Aye.
Davis. Aye. 0 nays.
That motion passes as well. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item would be a resolution reappropriating funds for curb and gutter at Quick Trip. As we all know, the third Willmar Quick Trip location is up and rolling, and the committee made note that they definitely did not take their time during construction. They made really good time during construction. If you've been there, been past the site during business hours, you'll notice it seems to always be busy. So that is a great addition to downtown. With that construction, the developer requested and negotiated a share of cost with the city for replacement of 451 linear feet of curb and gutter, truncated domes, and handicap ramps on the 4 corners of the block. The block was previously unoccupied for about 15 years and required those improvements for the new construction. The total cost of the project is $28,273.54. And the city's portion, a negotiated portion of that was $17,136.77, with $1,225.76 to be paid from Public Works operating budget and $15,911.01 to be reappropriated from unspent CIP funds for the improvements. A motion was made and seconded adopting a resolution authorizing the reappropriation of $15,911.01 for the replacement of curb and gutter at the new Quick Trip location. I will enter that motion now.
Second, Alvarado.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. So, Councilmember Plowman, again, this is the first time hearing about this, but is it the 15,911.01 or is it the 17,136.77? Because one is coming out of capital funds and one is coming out of operating budget. So what is the correct number?
Yeah, you are. I mean, that's a good question to ask because I think the process dictates how we go about our procedure. I'm going to defer to our city administrator for the clarification on that because I believe it's the $15,000 figure that is correct, but he may correct me or both of us if we're wrong.
Members of the council and mayor, the way I read it, it looks to me like they're using $1,200 from the operating budget and then the $15,911 from unspent CIP funds. If you add those two numbers together, you end up with 17,136.77.
So is the motioner and the seconder okay with amending the budget to those numbers?
I'm, that's fine by me. The only question that I have, I thought that there was maybe a procedural, that was just maybe a procedural bump that we could use the budget from Public Works operating, but the 15.9 had to be voted on, but that could be incorrect. So I am amicable to the amendment, adjusting that dollar amount to $7,136.77.
Councilmember Alvarado, you okay with that?
Yes, I'll second that. I think it's supposed to be, did you say 7,000 or 17,000?
17,136.77.
Okay. Second.
And I guess the only other thing we could do is say an amount not to exceed that, and then they can do however they have to. But we probably dwelt on this more than we need to already. But or City Attorney Scott had an opinion, he could do that as well. Otherwise, I'm ready to vote.
Mayor, members of the council, just quickly, I'm reading this. It appears there's sort of two actions that may need to be taken. One would be to make the reappropriation of the budget amount from the CIP funds, which is a 15,000 plus figure. The second would be to actually approve the appropriation to participate in the cost of that project and the 17,000 plus total figure. Does that sound correct?
Could that be made in one motion, or does that have to be two? I heard you say two.
I think there's two actions. I don't, as the city attorney, have any issue with that being one motion.
So the motioner and the seconder amicable to the clarification from the city attorney.
Yes, I would like to amend the motion to reflect the verbiage expressed by our attorney.
Second, Alvarado.
Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Fuentes,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item is resolution approving a utility easement with Willmar Municipal Utilities. With the decommissioning of the district heat program, the Willmar Municipal Utilities Office is upgrading their heating source to natural gas with CenterPoint Energy. An easement is required by CenterPoint before installing that particular gas line because the lot owner is listed as the City of Willmar, care of Willmar Municipal Utilities, or doing business as rather. They will pay $1 for that easement. A motion was made and seconded adopting a resolution approving the permanent utility easement with Willmar Municipal Utilities. I will enter that motion now.
Osmus, second.
Motion by Plowman, seconded by Osmus to approve an agreement for the easement for CenterPoint gas line. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Fuentes,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, well, we're just going to continue on because I assume that one passes and the mayor needs to take a pause. So we saved the best for last. And if you're not sick of all my talking already, you may just be after I get done butchering this one. Epitopics has requested the extension of the city's municipal utilities to serve their property located at Willmar Township, or within Willmar Township. With the service of city water and city sewer, it will allow significant expansion of their veterinary vaccine production facility on 45th Street. The city was awarded a grant by the Innovative Business Development Public Infrastructure, IBDPI, of $1.3 million for the extension of the sanitary sewer. I see Mr. Backman was with us tonight. He played an integral role in that, and so a hat tip to him. Fantastic work, sir. That $1.3 million was granted as part of that infrastructural improvement. The remainder of the project for each service is going to be paid for from bonding. Project estimates, just to give us some dollar figures here. For the water main, we're looking at about $790,000 for construction, right about $80,000 for contingencies, and right about just under $120,000 for engineering, giving us a total of right around just under $1 million. The sanitary sewer, we're at about 1.3 for construction, 130,000 for contingencies, just under 200,000 for engineering services, which totals about $1.6 million. A motion was made and seconded adopting a resolution approving the preliminary budget for the water main extension of Epitopics in the amount of $988,125. And I will enter that motion now.
Second, Alvarado.
Motion by Plowman, second by Alvarado to enter the preliminary budget for Epitopics for the water main. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes,
Aye.
Davis. Aye. Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes, or that resolution passes along with the previous resolution. Councilmember Plowman, good work. Thank you for your work, Mr. Backman. I concur with what Councilmember Plowman stated.
All right, the second and I believe final action that we need to take regarding that one, motion was made and seconded adopting a resolution approving the preliminary budget for the sanitary sewer extension of the Epitopics project in the amount of $1,596,250. And I will enter that motion now.
Osmus, I'll second.
Motion by Plowman, seconded by Osmus to approve the sanitary sewer project as well. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes,
Aye.
Hess. Aye. Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Councilmember Plowman. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Believe it or not, that was all the business that we could fit in that evening. We adjourned the meeting around 7:46 p.m. and I would move to file the minutes.
Osmus, second.
Motion by Plowman, seconded by Osmus to file the minutes. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Maskey,
Aye, and we went around the whole cycle. Well done.
Schwantes,
Aye.
Davis. Aye. Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Next, we have the Finance Committee report. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. The Finance Committee of the City of Willmar met at 5 p.m. on Thursday, September 10th via teleconference. Those present were Council Members Nelson, Fagerly, Alvarado, and Osmus. Others on the teleconference were City Administrator Gramitz, Finance Director Okens, EDC Director Backman, Planning and Development Director Ramstead, Park and Rec Director Baumgart, and Fire Chief Hansen, and I believe the mayor was on the call for a little while also. The first item we were asked to table by Development Director Ramstead regarding the Renaissance Zone storefront renovation incentive. Dr. Ramstead asked to table that. He was working with the HRA on the Downtown Community Block Grant funds, and he will be bringing that back to us after it is reviewed with that. That would apply to the city's 2020 general operating budget. So that was tabled for future reference. The first item that we took action on was the Game Time grant application authorization. Mr. Baumgart explained that Game Time annually offers a grant in the fall, which we have taken advantage of before. It was requested that this grant be submitted on behalf of the City of Willmar. There is $150,000 budgeted in the 2020 CIP, which would allow the city to receive 100% match in grant funds. With these funds, the city would be able to install 2 new playgrounds using the amount allocated in the capital improvement and the grant contributions. Hilltop playground equipment was designated, and also they are looking at Sperry Park, subject to other improvements in that area with a backup plan for Rainbow Park. It was noted that the Park and Rec Board is also developing a 5-year park equipment replacement plan to assure the city is reaching all areas of the city equally. It was moved and seconded and passed to recommend a resolution to approve the application of the Game Time grant, and if awarded, the 2020 capital improvement dollars to purchase 2 sets of playground equipments, and I will make that motion now.
Second, Fagerly.
Motion by Nelson, second by Fagerly to approve a grant for 2 playgrounds. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Schwantes,
Aye.
Davis. Davis. Aye. Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Councilmember Nelson.
Our next item was tabled also to receive the mayor's proposed budget, which he did tonight. That allowed for the full council to meet along with setting a time frame for the Finance Committee to review future budget items. It was requested that a poll be conducted with all council members to determine when a meeting could occur. We will review this at the Finance Committee meeting this week, and we'll work with all the city council members to make sure they can be available for future budget meetings. The next item was the 2021 EDC proposed budget. EDC Director Aaron Backman reported to the committee that their annual audit had recently been completed and there were no issues reported. Mr. Backman then presented the proposed 2021 EDC budget, noting it was not increasing from the 2020 budget. The proposed county tax levy remains at $534,000. Total revenues projected at $605,383. Total expenditures were projected at $604,800. It was moved and seconded and passed to recommend a motion to approve the 2021 EDC proposed budget as presented, and I will enter that motion now.
Osmus, second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion.
Mr. Backman is on the phone. I just wondered if he had anything he wanted to comment on.
Well, again, thank you for the opportunity. It's been a busy year, and certainly with the CARES Act, that has changed budgetary calculations in a number of ways, but I think we're trying to hold the line on the levy and increases. So we're pleased, I think, with this overall budget.
Additional discussions or questions for Mr. Backman? Roll call.
Councilmember Davis. Aye. Alvarado.
Aye.
Asmus.
Aye.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Bakerly.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Fuentes.
Aye.
Ayes, 0 nays.
That that motion passes. Next is, I'm sorry, Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. The rest were discussion items. The sales tax analysis funding level was reviewed. I believe you all received that information. State financial information update, basically the same, just waiting to see what's going to happen there. Department information update. Mr. Elkins reviewed what he had been working on in the department. And just one comment that I was going to make on that, and we discussed that tonight already, is that the preliminary levy is done and we have until December 31st to, we can decrease but not increase. The comment that I wanted to reference was at a recent legislative meeting, an amendment was passed due to the recent economic conditions authorizing cities to increase the tax levy by January 13th should the legislature approve an allotment of local government aid. Future agenda items were reviewed and there was no other business to come before the meeting, and we adjourned at 5:45, and I would make a motion to enter for the minutes at this time.
Second.
Motion made by Nelson, second by Fagerly to file the minutes. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Aye.
Asmus.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Fuentes.
Aye.
Aye. 8 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Next we have the Labor Relations Committee minutes. Councilmember Maskey.
The Labor Relations Committee met on September 14th at 6:15. In attendance were council members Meskey, Fagerly, Davis, and Schwantes. Also HR Director Beckman and City Administrator Grammans were also present. We talked about job descriptions, and there are basically 3 positions that are part of the mayor's budget. Our last council meeting, we did pass the part-time Main Street description. This time, the assistant administrator position was the job description that we looked at. I'll put that motion forward in a moment. The other one on your minutes would have been the community outreach coordinator. It was also discussed this evening. That was just a discussion to gather information and sort of where the Labor Committee at least stood on the issue, and that's going to get formulated into a much more complete description and be brought at a future meeting. But we did act on the Assistant City Administrator position. We did have conversation about how this has been historically handled and where the council's position had been on this. However, in order to have a discussion about what we'd like that to look like, we thought we would forward that position for your consideration. Of course, we know that this has now been presented as part of the budget. So if we went forward with the budget, this position would be funded, but we did not want to get into the funding position. That's not our job. So what you have before you this evening is the job description of the Assistant City Administrator. And there was a motion to bring that forward. So I'll entertain that motion now.
Schwantes, second.
Yep.
Motion been made by Maskey, seconded by Schwantes to move forward the Assistant City Administrator position. I would just like to note that on page 3 of 3, the Assistant City Administrator doesn't get carried forward. It just says city administrator, so that would be a typo that should be corrected. Additional discussion. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. I did listen to the Labor Committee, and there was a discussion about basically reviewing the, I don't know if the organizational chart, but reviewing the administrative area, and also some questions about how it affected job descriptions for other people in that area. And it sounded like that was something that was going to be reviewed and brought forward to us. And I think after listening to Administrator Gramitz, also, he talked about how other assistant administrators had been used in other communities. And so I think it would be just I guess I would like to see how that department would function, and perhaps if there's even any other things that would change with other department heads. And I asked that with just reviewing the administrative structure. I just have a concern about continuing to add department heads or those types of positions without reviewing the efficiency or in what's best for that area. So I just was curious if that's something, it was talked about there, if that's something that will be planned to be, that could be reviewed in the budgeting process as we review this.
Councilmember Maskey.
Yeah, we talked about, like I said, in that historical conversation about how when we had a retirement and we did some reallocation, and at the time created the HR director position and moved some of those financial duties to the financial director, and we shuffled those things. We said, this was one of those positions that was requested at that time, and what did that job description look like? And so they did review it at the committee, City Administrator Gramitz and HR Director Beckman. They did not identify any current things that were overlapped in those, but it would definitely entertain, I think, a revisit of some of these other positions. I think it's an opportunity for that. What really prompted, I think, the move of moving this position forward was arguments on succession and continuity planning. However, what those look like beyond now, it's hard to look in that crystal ball, but that was what was the argument to get it out of committee, at least to bring to the council this evening.
Additional discussion. Councilmember Nelson, my question to you would be, are you talking about where it communicates internally and externally on the job description, or is there another place there where you were talking about it? Or is it just that you wanted to address it in the budgeting process?
In listening to the meeting, I think there were good questions by a couple of council members about the structure of our organizational chart and some of those types of things, and how this position would fit into that, and where can we create efficiencies both inside the administrative department and with other positions versus looking at just adding a position. I'm not saying the work's not there. I just that's what I heard, that there was an ask. Yes, they did talk about it, but there was an ask to review that. And Administrator Gramitz shared how those position was used other places, and I heard him talk about efficiencies in everything from public works to other things. And so I just think it merits us, if that is a position that we're going to add next year, that we be aware if there's any future savings, or we talked about special projects and what happens if we're with those types of things too. So that was just a request for I think just to make sure it's reviewed.
Councilmember Maskey.
I think that is on the radar screen, and in the chat, HR Beckman did say will do, but I'll let her clarify that if she wishes. But I think that is what we're going to plan to do.
HR Director Beckman.
Yes, that is correct. I can certainly review that. I could even send out our current organizational chart and show what it would look like with that change. And I can also send out, if you'd like, the two job descriptions that came up as possible overlap with the assistant city administrator and those other two jobs. They thought there'd be overlap. I can send those out too. I did review them further and I didn't see any significant overlap, but I can certainly email that out to everyone.
Councilmember Nelson, is that helpful?
Yeah, I think so. I just have a concern about our ability to be able to add this in right now, and I think it would be in our best interest to understand, you know, why we need it and how we can create efficiencies going forward with that position. And I believe Mr. Gramitz wanted to speak.
Yeah, I just saw his hand up. So, City Administrator Gramitz.
Mr. Mayor and City Council members, this is just a thought that crossed my brain. We were sitting there talking about the auditorium and potentially why, you know, staff didn't have that processed already. And, you know, the explanation was we're already knee deep in our own stuff. You know, we're already doing our own jobs. To tackle another project such as this would be one of those prime projects that you would, you know, point the assistant city administrator at and say, okay, corral the troops, you know, get what you need from each department and get this thing done. And to be quite honest, that's just one of probably many things that are on the list in Willmar that we keep, and since I've been here, we keep repeating those things, saying, when are we going to get to those? When are we going to get to those? And it's like, there's a reason why we keep saying it over and over and over again. It's because, you know, we can staff it at existing levels and talk about it again next year. You know, I'm talking about the auditorium, or you can point your department heads to the direction that they're supposed to be working and get that work done by bringing new staff on. So that's just one of those indicators that I've seen since I've been in Willmar, and I would just want to point that out because we talked about it at the very beginning of the meeting. So I just throw that out there for your consideration as you go through the budgetary process and we flesh these things out and compare these things, whether it be at finance or labor. We'll get to the more detail, and I think that's what Councilor Nelson was really asking, was how does it all fit? And we'll be working on that between now and budget approval time to hopefully answer your questions.
So I have a question for the Chair of Labor. With these questions that have been raised, are you still requesting that the job description be approved this evening? I know there's a motion and a second on the table, and I'm ready to vote on it. I think this position is very much needed. I happen to work in cities that have had assistant city administrators, and exactly what the administrator talked about is exactly the projects that get done. It's the stuff, and I don't know how many times you as council members hear this, but I hear it quite regularly. Mr. Mayor, we don't have the time to do that. We're not going to do that. And so this is the type of things that those projects could be handed off to the assistant city administrator, and the administrator still oversees the day-to-day functions of the organization, but this person augments and assists with that process. So I'm very comfortable with moving it forward. Many questions that have been raised, I just want to make sure we're still wanting to move it forward.
Well, I will tell you that as the chair of labor, I see no reason to not move the job description forward. The description is what it is. The description is in congruence with most other cities. The question is not whether or not the job description is correct. It's going to be whether or not this council wishes to fund it, which is an argument for a different evening. So for me, I'm very comfortable moving this position forward tonight.
Okay, additional comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Hurley,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Alvarado,
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Councilmember Meske.
The last item on our agenda was a labor negotiations update. We do have meetings scheduled with staff and the unions at the end of September and early October. To make sure the whole council stays in the loop, we are going to request a closed session update at the end of the October 19th council meeting, because we have no idea what that will entail at the time. So that is the plan. So hopefully that'll get on the agenda. And with that, that was the end of our meeting. With no other issues to come before the Labor Committee. So with that, I would move to file the minutes.
Schwantes, second.
Motion by Meske, seconded by Schwantes, to file the Labor Relations Committee minutes. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. I'm sorry, roll call.
Councilmember Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Meske,
Aye.
Montes,
Aye.
Davis. Aye. Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Next, we have consideration of off-sale intoxicating liquor license for Everest Liquors LLC. City Clerk Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you tonight is a request to approve the Everett Liquors LLC off-sale intoxicating liquor license. They recently purchased Westside Liquor, and this license would run from current date till April 25th of 2021, which is our normal annual renewal time for liquor licenses. That's my recommendation to approve as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the liquor license.
Second. Alvarado.
Motion by Fagerly, seconded by Alvarado, to approve the liquor license as presented. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson. Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Montes,
Aye.
Davis. Aye. Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays. Mr. Mayor, your microphone is not on.
Can you hear me now? Next is a resolution approving declaring surplus equipment and authorizing sale at public auction. I'm not sure who's taking this. City Clerk Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you is a resolution declaring surplus equipment and authorizing sale at public auction of many of our surplus items. We have several vehicles and miscellaneous items that we will be auctioning off on October 9th or 7th, Wednesday. And we are asking you to approve this resolution. It's part of a requirement in order to conduct the auction.
Osmus, I'll make that motion.
Second, Schwantes. Oh, Davis,
Motion by
it's all
Osmus,
yours.
seconded by Davis to approve a consideration of resolution declaring surplus equipment and authorizing sale at public auction. Discussion. I just have one question. These used to be done on a Friday, and I noticed that this one's being done on a Wednesday. Is that to make it more accessible to the public? Is that the reason why we're changing the date? I think last year we did it as well, and I had a number of complaints from people that used to buy the vehicles that said they're unable to get there and wondering why we moved it off of a Friday. So Is there a reason why we did that? Did we get a request for that, or is this for ease of staff?
Mr. Mayor, we did receive a request last year from the Public Works Department and also the Police Department for staffing levels. It's harder on Fridays to make sure we have plenty of staff, and it also allows for the individuals to come later at night and then still pick up their items on Thursday and Friday, rather than paying police officers to be on duty Saturday and Sunday for people to pick up their vehicles. I guess
Okay.
I was unaware that anyone from the public complained about it. No one brought that to my attention.
Sure. Yeah, I had a number of complaints of people that bought vehicles in the past, and then they just said, you know, in the middle of the week, it just makes it almost impossible. But so we don't employ anybody after hours then to do the auction anymore then? So it's a cost savings issue?
It
So
is
we
a
have no
cost.
additional police officers or anything on duty?
We do have police officers. They do stay at the impound lot till later. We did not have an auction this spring because of COVID. So this auction, we do have several items. You know, typically in the fall, it's just some vehicles. And this time we have vehicles and many miscellaneous items. So we're starting at 10 a.m., hoping to be finished, you know, by the end of the normal workday.
Sure. Well, maybe we can do an analysis on the revenues generated. And if we see a substantial drop in that, you know, we maybe need to look at that. But I hadn't been made aware that we had police officers that were unable to work that. So with that, roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly,
Aye.
Maskey,
Aye.
Schwantes,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next, we have the Willmar Y project, and I'm assuming this is going to either Councilmember Plowman or Public Works Director. I'm not sure where it's going.
Public Works Director Christensen, I believe.
Okay,
Thank you, Thank you, Mayor, members of the committee. I saw Mr. Plowman's name on there. I thought he was going to take that from me, but not to be.
Not tonight, man, not tonight. I
This
gotta search.
there's 2 resolutions involved in this item. Along with the ever-changing saga of the Willmar Y project, the 2 resolutions required are an amendment to the Master Cooperation Agreement needed to update the timing of the second closing. Now, the second closing has less to do with the city and more to do with the county and BNSF and MnDOT, but it needs to change the date of that second closing to September 30th or later. And the or later language was suggested by Mr. Scott so that we maybe don't have to do this amendment again, which would be kind of nice in case something happens and it doesn't happen in the next 10 days. The second resolution is an access easement that has come about with the railroad right-of-way cutting through parcels of farm ground and other private property. It has, just by the nature of the layout of the plats, it has cut off access to a few of those parcels. And so this grants a 66-foot ingress egress easement. And that's a significant number because it's a standard county road width, but it is across former airport property, city property. We are actually granting that easement to the county, and then the county is taking care of it at that point for access to that private property. I noticed on the car form, and that's my mistake, I've got the 2 resolutions adopted, the amendment first, and then the ingress egress easement. Although under the overview, I described the easement first, and the master cooperation agreement second. So I apologize for that.
I'll make a motion adopting a resolution to approve amendment number 2 to the master cooperation agreement to the Willmar Y project.
I'll second that, Alvarado.
Motion by Plowman, seconded by Plowman to approve the amendment number 2 to the master cooperation agreement. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Maskey,
Aye.
Fontes,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Hagerly.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
I'll
Councilmember
move to
Plowman.
adopt a resolution approving the ingress egress easement with Candy High County for the Willmar Y project.
I'll second that, Alvarado.
Motion by Councilmember Plowman, seconded by Councilmember Alvarado to approve the ingress egress easement with Candy Lake County for the Willmar Y project. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Schwantes,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Alvarado,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Hagerly,
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Next, we have discussion of in-person city council meetings. And I will start this discussion. I look for a car form. I don't see one. I feel very strongly that as a city, we need to start meeting in person for our city council meetings. I have requested that we talk about this, and there was a motion that was made but did not receive a second at the last meeting. And I talk to my cohorts across the state on a regular basis, and they're all meeting in person. And I'm sure there's a few that probably aren't, but most of them are and have been for months. And I really feel that as the council, we need to have a conversation about that. And I strongly support the fact that the council would meet in person. With that being said, we need to make sure that we meet the requirements of social distancing. People wear masks, people keep their spacing, people keep their hands to themselves, which we do anyways. But I think that that could very easily be done. And then also for our public hearings, I feel very strongly that we can still bring the public in, similar to what Candy Lake County does currently, is they have the people wait in the hallway. They just come in, state their information to the council. Like the 3 public hearings we had today, they could state their case, and then they could go on about their business. So I'm pleased to see this as an agenda item, and I know Councilmember Meske had talked about it, but I would speak strongly in favor of going back to in-person city council meetings for improved communication between the council members. So with that, Councilmember Meske.
I agree with most of what you said. I would just add, it's an opportunity, I believe, to do a little bit of creative thinking outside of the box. I think we need to get back to face-to-face meetings as well. And I believe if we follow the protocols that were set in place, there's no reason not to do that. However, this is an opportunity to maybe do things a little bit differently. And I would like to see maybe an exploration of a hybrid kind of a system where we can have digital attendance by those that maybe they have to work with somebody who is highly susceptible, maybe themselves are highly susceptible, and I think we could have a joint meeting. It's going to require some extra burden on our IT people, but I don't see why we could not have a mixed meeting where you have this as an optional piece sitting out there. And as a matter of fact, I think this could be really helpful for public input as well We could do a combination. We could have people come in and address the council and leave like the county does, or they could address it like we do for our public meetings here. There were no callers tonight, but if we had it set up that way, I think that would be a good idea. So for me, I think this is an opportunity. Let's go back to a face-to-face option with a combination of technology, and maybe that would be the new normal. We have it already as an ability to appear by digital types of means. I'm pretty sure that a pandemic would qualify as an exception for that. So I have no problem going back to sort of a hybrid model. And again, I don't know what our IT folks will have to say about it, but I think that's the way to do it. So if you have an underlying condition and you don't want to come to the meeting physically, you can still attend digitally as well as members of the public. So that's the kind of thing I would like to see.
Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Meske. I'll double down on that. I think it had been discussed in the past about the legality and the practicality of a council member or potentially a staff member or whatnot being able to attend digitally. And I think now would be a great time to explore the possibility of that. There are instances, I can only speak on my own behalf, I travel for work, and as we maybe come out the other side of this pandemic and I'm traveling again, I would like to be able to take part in as many meetings as I'm physically able to. And so if we were able to make something work right now, you know, taking COVID into consideration, it could be something technology wise that would benefit other council members along with myself in the future, help us be able to attend future meetings. Thank you.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Kalman. I just wanted to ask a question. Are we proposing to go back out to the county for the meetings like we had before? I'm familiar with some of their protocols with being on the HRA board and what the HRA, you know, how some of they're familiar. And I'm just wondering if we're aware of some of the requirements that the county does have in order to do that, and if that's something that we would be willing to follow. And so is that what's being proposed, is to go back out to the county for those meetings? And I too would say that we should come up with a hybrid method just to protect ourselves both ways, and looking at what's happened with the utilities and what's happened with, you know, some of the other things that are going on. I think it would provide us with the most flexibility to make sure that the attendance, and if things change, to be able to react quickly. But is that the plan? Are you talking about the county building?
So the mayor can't make a motion, so but I would speak in favor of going back out to the county. I did ask if we could go back to the municipal utilities building, and I was told by staff that that equipment had been removed, and so we can't go there any longer. You know, we certainly could have it worked on so that we could go back there, but as far as where the location is, I'm not so concerned about the location. I just simply thought that if we went back to the county office building, that's where we were meeting in the past, and I think there's ample room there for everybody to spread out. We could add some desks there for our staff so they're not sitting basically out in limbo for those that wanted to attend. But as you all know as well, I'm a strong supporter of having the administrator at these meetings and our staff members not here, simply because then they can't be ambushed. So that is not happening any longer, but it used to happen on a fairly regular basis. But I think it just makes the administrator the one that reports to us, and then our communication is through the administrator. That's my thoughts, rambling as they are. Councilmember Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering what the outcomes were of some of the surveys that were presented to City Administrator Gramitz, and what kind of feedback he received towards reopening the council meetings.
City Administrator Gramitz.
And Mr. Mayor and City Council members, when I took the survey of the City Council, I received 4 responses back, 2 saying, yeah, I don't see why we shouldn't, get back together. 2 said, kind of had reservations, but we want to make sure we do it in a safe manner. And also, I think, kind of citing that the governor hasn't yet released larger groups, to meet. It's still the 10 and under kind of scenario, except for if you call it a public event. And I guarantee you that, in my mind, a city council meeting, I think I can classify as a public event, which would allow more than 10 people to show up. But in my conversations and surveys of other cities, I passed out information to the city council a few weeks ago that basically said, roughly 85% of most cities our size, 10 to 30,000 population, were open. Their city hall was open. They were conducting meetings in public. There was a couple of communities that had a hybrid thing going on, where committees were meeting with video, and the city council was meeting, in public, and their city halls may or may not be open except by appointment. And then there was a couple of communities that were still closed. After that survey, there was a small community down here had been open, and they had to close for 14 days because they had a COVID virus detected amongst their staff. So, whether it's City Hall or the City Council being open, there's no guarantees. You still run the potential risk that you may have to, shut back down. But from the City Council's perspective, that would be, I think, considered a discretionary decision. And Mr. Scott can weigh in on and explain that in more detail. But your decision to open up is quite honestly different than my decision to open up. I mean, I can make that decision, but there's going to be plenty of people that would argue the point. City Council makes that decision. You're the governing body, and that carries, I think, way more weight than myself. So, having said that, I see Mr. Scott has his green microphone on. He may want to comment. He could tell me I'm wrong, and that'd be fine.
Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. And just so everyone has the benefit of the background, under the executive order as it pertains to city council meetings are exempted from the prohibition against indoor gatherings of 10 people or more. The executive order, which, we're still operating under the reopening order from June, early June, so over 3 months ago. But that order simply says that, again, city council meetings are exempt, but that remote meetings are strongly encouraged whenever possible. So this is really up to the city council's discretion. You absolutely can legally resume meeting either in person or partially in person with a hybrid approach. Whatever you think the needs of the city are, it's up to you to decide, and it would be permissible under the executive order. The mask requirement would apply. Masks must be worn. The exception would be if anyone is actually speaking at the meeting, you are legally permitted under the mask executive order to remove your mask while you're speaking. The same would go for any public attending the meetings.
Councilmember Plowman, followed by Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would motion that the city resume regular city council meetings in person effective October 5th, and direct staff to comply with all recommended safety protocol and procedures, as well as implementing other potential options for digital/hybrid meetings to be incorporated.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Motion by Plowman, seconded by Meske. Councilmember Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to, I guess I'm one of these guys that wants to err on the cautious side. I like the idea of the hybrid version, giving each counselor the opportunity to meet via Zoom or meetings to go, or to show up personally. I think that should be a personal choice. And just because the office is open or the meetings are open, one can choose not to attend as long as they attend via electronic means. Right now, it seems like Britain, I know it's across the pond, but they're getting ready to hunker down again. So I think we do not have to be like everybody else. Just because they're opened up, we can err on the side of caution too. But anyways, thank you.
Additional comments or questions? Councilmember Meske.
I just want to address Councilmember Alvarado's concern. I think that's the motion that we made, is it not? I thought that was the one I seconded, is that we have a hybrid model. Is that not correct?
Correct. I agree with that.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. I appreciate the hybrid offer with that. I would, just like we did with the HRA, I would like for us to review the protocols that will need to be done out at the county building, both for city council members and for staff and for the public, for a better understanding of who's going to be responsible to implement those protocols. And, with that, I do have a concern that we do follow the protocols. And so I think it would be good for us to review what the requirements will be if we're going back to the county.
Councilmember Meske.
I am curious. I mean, I know that the motion is for October 5th, but I think that Councilmember Nelson is absolutely correct. We need to spell out exactly what those precautions are going to be in place. If you're going to appear remotely, what that might look like, either as a member of the community or as a member of the council, or as staff. So maybe, I don't know if the October 5th is a reasonable date. I know it's the date that's thrown out there, but if that's not feasible, will we be able to know what's still left to try to make that happen? And so we can have a definitive date if October 5th is too soon to make that pivot? Because we certainly, as we pivot there, we have to be able to pivot away if that is necessary as well. I know that our kids are going to school in a hybrid system and they're prepared to pivot away if they need to. Our colleges are meeting in the same kind of a hybrid situation to pivot if they need to, but the rules are very clear. I can tell you every day I fill out a form for my children to go to school to verify that they are not currently having symptoms of the virus. Every day that I go into my work at the college, I have to fill out the same form as do all of my students. We might want to have some protocol in place like that as well. So I know that there's a few other layers that have to happen. I don't know if the 5th, it could happen by then. I think we should try, but realistically, we may have to push it off a meeting if we can't meet all the safeguards, because it's more important to me to meet all the safeguards than to just start meeting face to face again. I think we can set an example of how to pivot and do it correctly, where we do manage. I know there's everybody focuses on liability, but we can also focus on community health and safety.
Well, I would assume that our staff is already working on it because I mean, we talked about it and said that this is going to be something, a discussion item. I don't think we're reinventing the wheel. I was talking to some community leaders today about it and, trying to get their opinions. And they said, what was said to me is you guys are so far behind the 8 ball, you're not even in the same game. Everybody else is way ahead of you. And so it's about time you catch up. So that's the sentiment of the public. I should say some of the public. So I think that we should be able to follow whatever has been documented Councilmember Nelson has referenced HRA a couple times, and I know they've been meeting for a while as an option, so we should simply be able to establish what they have and then put it in place, I would think. So Councilmember Nelson.
The HRA has not been meeting at the county building. The HRA has been meeting virtually, and they have set up their system at the offsite. So they have not been meeting there, but I am aware of the protocols to get in the door and the appointments and those types of things, and I've heard about some of the others. And so I just think that we need to be aware of that. I think my observation from the meeting that we had at the fire station was that I'm not sure we have the protocols down pat for city meetings. And I don't know who was in charge of that. I'm not accusing anyone on this call, but it was very obvious that day that there were probably more people in the room than there should have been. There was food that was available in the public, and I have no clue who on the city should have been responsible for that. And I guess, you know, with working with the funeral industry, I know that the T's are crossed and I's are dotted with churches, et cetera, and that's where the liability stands. And so I just think we've got some homework to do, and even with City Hall and with our staff to get their comfort level with how this is going to work and how, you know, how the spacing will be and those types of things. So I'm not comfortable just saying that we are ready to go. I guess I would like to see what those requirements are and what the county's requirements are and how we are going to follow them. And actually, what are we doing in our other facilities at the same time? Because I think that is something that probably needs to be discussed before we just open up City Hall and buildings to the public too. So I'll quit.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about City Hall right now. We're talking about the city council meetings. I've got a lot of concerns about City Hall, but I think the motion on the table is in regards to city council meetings. So, Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my intent and my hope with this motion is that staff can begin to move down this direction. I would imagine that we would hear something from staff next week, and that if the option to meet digitally or have some sort of hybrid system is also available for that date of the 5th, we could use that as kind of a trial run, so to speak. If you're not comfortable being there, then you don't have to be. If you are comfortable being there, then that will be our indicator, and then subsequent motions can always be made at that time. If we are there and we do not feel as though we're doing the correct job or a safe job or whatever, we can give new direction as needed. But like I said, I would assume, and I've been in the county building within the past few months, and I've seen the protocols that they're taking out there for all of their various departments. And I know that they're, you know, the cleanliness of the facilities, sanitization and whatnot, they're following all that protocol. I would assume that with this motion, that would start the gears turning, and I would assume that staff would rise to the occasion, and that come the 5th, we would find out, you know, exactly what it looks like, but we'd also have the option for those that are still reserved or concerned, they would be able to maintain some distance, because there are certainly situations that require that. So with all those things being, you know, trying to be respected, again, on the 5th, I don't know if that's pushing it or not, but we would have the ability to review what it looks like and then take new action there.
Councilmember Metzke.
I agree with everything Councilmember Plowman just said. I was just making a list. There's cleaning protocols, masking protocols, the go-to meeting remotely, having a check-in form, public in person or public go-to meeting, just things to consider in what that might look like. And then as I was sitting there, I'm thinking those CARES dollars, this is the kind of thing, I mean, it was very easy to put it into economic development for small business loans. And I think that's the way that the majority of those dollars should be spent. However, getting a system that can integrate this and maneuver might be worth exploring as well. We could use some of those dollars if there are some technologies missing to make this work that maybe we could capture and use for that purpose. Just throwing it out there. I'm still in favor of the motion.
Additional comments? Okay, the motion is to have staff research and get back to us the possibility of meeting October 5th in person with a hybrid option as well. I'm paraphrasing. I'm sure that our city clerk has the motion down verbatim, but I'm just kind of paraphrasing. Roll call.
Councilmember Davis. Aye. Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Fontes.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Next is discussion of reopening of City Hall to the public. This is something we had left in the hands of the administrator in the past. And so I'm not sure who put this on the agenda, but I'm not prepared to talk about it unless there's a motion made. In the absence of a motion, I'll go to comments by the mayor. This past about 5 weeks, I have received, I can't even begin to count the number of complaints about South First Street. I did send a memo to Councilmember Plowman and Alvarado in regards to this as the chair and vice chair of Public Works. And I have been traveling the state of Minnesota quite a bit over the last 11 months and have observed how the signage is done in other communities. And after I had sent the email to Councilmember Alvarado and Plowman in regards to this issue, I took special note after that as I drove through other communities. What has happened is the signage that we are having done in Willmar is severely limiting our already stressed businesses. And when I went through these other communities, 100% of them allowed full access to their businesses. These were overlay projects. These were total reconstruct projects. These were simple painting of the roadway. And today, I thought, well, I'll just take a look at our systems here again in Willmar. And every one of our businesses have some type of an impediment device in their driveway. I urge each of you council members to drive down First Street and look at it. It's terrible. I went to Cup Foods today. Both entrances were blocked. You had to drive around a barricade in order to get in. Perkins restaurant, last week, their people to get into Perkins restaurant had to drive through Arby's parking lot, through Target parking lot to get to the Perkins restaurant. Our staff has worked diligently on this. My complaint is not with our staff. My complaint is with from hearing from the city attorney, it is with the general contractor. But our businesses are suffering already, and to have this additional traffic problem in order for people to get into their businesses. There's one business that I observed last week where people are actually driving across the grass of another business so that people can get into the business and out of the business. This is on South First Street in Willmar. And so I just want to make the council aware of that. I want to make our citizens aware of it. I want our citizens to know that our staff is working diligently to resolve this, but the problems continue to exist. And I think when we put contracts in place in the future, we need to look at how we allow people to have access to their properties. I've saw some posts on Facebook on the project over on the east side, 9th Street Southeast, that people are having trouble getting into their businesses there as well. So I just want to make the council aware of it, make the public aware of it. Our staff is doing a yeoman's job of addressing this, and I want to commend them. But I think we really need to address this in our future projects so that we have access to these businesses. I was told this project was going to last 4 weeks. I think we're now in week 6, and it looks like we're a long ways to go yet. So I hope that's not true, but I think it probably is. So those are the comments I wanted to make. With that, I'll go to council member announcements, and we'll start with Councilmember Plowman because he's in the upper right. So Councilmember Plowman.
Perfect timing too with the and I appreciate the words that you spoke regarding South First Street. Yes, and especially with this week now of good weather that we're having. I'm not going to call it unseasonable because I hope that it stays for the foreseeable future, but we should be seeing significant progress on construction projects. If we do not, that's indicator that we have a problem. I have, as our Public Works chairperson, I've reached out to some of the individuals out there, and yeah, I think that it appears as though there's a communication problem. It seems to be more of a problem than anything else. But it seems to me like the message is being sent to the appropriate individuals, along with staff is currently working on it as well. So I do imagine that the problem will be remedied. Again, it's not only a problem for business, traffic and whatnot. Certainly that's of concern, but my office is located right on West 19th, and I know there's also a safety concern with the traffic controls and whatnot. There's a lot of, at certain times of day, there's a lot of traffic, and there have been numerous fender benders. So there's a safety concern as well. But it's my hope that the contractor takes this week as an opportunity to jump back on top of things, and I do believe it is their ultimate responsibility to make sure that gets done. So it will not be ignored. And thank you for the comments, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Nelson.
I have no comments, and I will withhold my comments about 9th Street Southeast till another time.
I bet that's true. Next, we will have Councilmember Fagerly.
I'm okay, thanks.
Councilmember Metzke.
I will make the comment about 9th Street. It's not just businesses, it's also the residential contracts. This was the same thing that happened last year with residential streets. It's also happening with residential streets this year as well. And we've talked about it before, of what can contractors do to alleviate that. And some of them are very good and some of them maybe not so good. I don't know how we put those into contracts, but it's something that should be considered. So I live over by First Street, and everything the mayor said is absolutely true. You forgot, if you want to go to Cub Foods, you can also go on that little alleyway of death that the newspaper covered with all the holes. That is not a city road. You can go by Culver's to get there, but good luck. And that's now reduced to a single lane as you go through there because of the holes in that road. So it is very inconvenient. And if you're from out of town, forget it. You will not get into those places. If you're a local, you'll know how to take in the little back roads, but it can't be good for business. So considering it in the future for business thoroughfares as well as residentials.
Councilmember Schwantes.
I'll pass, thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
I have no comments tonight, thank you.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to remind people, beware of agricultural rush hour. If you're out there traveling, there's a lot of big tractors and stuff being moved around. And it's good to see that work on Robbins Island is commencing. And thank you very much.
Council member Mission 1, Osmus.
Nothing
Thanks,
more to
Bill.
add. Thank you.
Councilmember Osmus. I'm sorry, I've got going on here.
Nothing more to add.
Okay,
Thank-
council member committee meeting dates, finance.
Finance is going to be meeting this Thursday, September 24th, 5 o'clock. We'll work on a schedule and communicating with the entire council.
Council, labor.
There will not be a labor meeting next Monday.
Community development.
Monday, the 28th, 5:15.
Public works, public safety.
We will be meeting this week, Wednesday, the 23rd, 5 o'clock, and I'm going to try get these construction project items added to that agenda if at all possible. Otherwise, we will discuss formally the next available opportunity. Thank you.
With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Meske, seconded by Davis to adjourn. We are adjourned.